novices hurdle. It was.
Well, apologies there if you couldn't hear that sound very well, but I thought we'd keep going with the video, and great to see Anything for Love winning her Grade 2 race at Sandown this afternoon. So we're going to speak to Dan Skelton very shortly, but just before we do that, I think we may have Jamie Snowden here. Jamie, are you with us? I'm pretty sure he's on the line somewhere. We're just going to have a very quick word. Jamie, are you with us?
Hi, Dan. Yep, I'm here.
Great. Well, Jamie, thanks for joining, especially at such short notice, and really do appreciate you joining us very, very briefly just before we go over to Dan Skelton. So, Jamie, absolutely delighted with that.
I mean, what a day! I'm just gutted that none of you in the syndicate could be there to enjoy the moment. But I'm sure you all did at home.
And is it true that that's your first ever winner at Sandown?
Yes. as a short period of time as a jockey, it was a wonderful racecourse for me as a jockey. But I had plenty of winners there when I was riding. But there are just 3 tracks left for me to train a winner at, and unfortunately Sandown was one. So thankfully I've managed to hit that sort of hoodoo on the head, and we can move forward with just I think it's Newcastle and Musselburgh left. So yeah, delighted for that. So thanks for applying giving us the ammunition to finally shoot the target.
And the first grade of success for Paige Fuller as well, and she's an important part of your team, isn't she?
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, Paige has been here for a good few years, and she rode out her claim earlier this season, and as all the as everyone really probably on this call will know, it's incredibly hard for a conditional jockey to ride out their claim. So when the claim is gone, it's vital that we can supply these big winners to these jockeys, because it's instrumental in their career to move forward with. So it was a real big day for Paige.
Brilliant. And James, just tell us, obviously she's back home now, so does she seem okay after the race?
Yeah, she's back home, had a customary roll as soon as she got in her box, and heads straight back in her feed bowl. So she's one of those lovely racehorses that just eats, sleeps and gallops.
Brilliant. Well, that's the type of horse we like. And obviously very, very early days, but she's now a Grade 2 winner. Any thoughts in the back of your mind about where we go next?
Well, she's obviously in at Cheltenham over 2.5 against. We won't put her in the novice. Obviously, the novice is over 2 miles at Cheltenham, so she's in the Dawn Run over 2.5. But obviously, it would have to be pretty soft for her to take up her engagement there. I think she's a really wonderful mare, and to go and win 5 races from 7 starts, it goes to show that she is a wonderful racehorse. But without wishing to do her any disservice whatsoever, she's all heart, guts, and stamina. And the fact that she's gone and won those 2 races earlier on the season over 2 miles was always going to be a bonus, because as soon as she went up in trip, it was always going to help her. But I think if it dried out at the festival, I think she might be on the back foot from the word go. So if it was soft ground, I think it's something that we need to talk about. But on drying spring ground, it's probably not the right thing to do for her. But as I said on the telly, I think let's enjoy today and think about tomorrow when it comes around.
Well done, Jamie. We just can't let you go without mentioning Hogan's Height. Obviously, we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but Grand National weights came out this week, and I think we're all delighted to see that. Well, he is going to get in the Grand National if he gets there fit and well, and that must be hugely exciting for you and the yard.
Yeah, very much so. He's in great form. Obviously, we had a couple of blips in the autumn, which as it turns out, was pretty frustrating, but it might be a blessing in disguise, because he's certainly a fresh horse to come into the spring, and he'll have his first run, his prep run over hurdles at Wincanton on Saturday, and then all being well onto the cross country at the festival, and that race will qualify him as his chase start to then go on to the national. So no, I'm really excited and hope that every cloud has a silver lining, and hope that the cloud that we were sort of under through the autumn was only part of the story, and that dreams do become real.
Absolutely. And just before you go, let's just mention our other horse with you. He seems in good form. Beholden, I understand he went up the gallops twice today in a canter. So that's the first time he's been up there twice, but very happy with his progress.
Yeah, that's right. So obviously he had a very good winter holiday, as it were, and he's come back in. He looks great, big and burly, and he's just started doing 2 canters this morning up on the gallops, and doing it nicely. So yeah, we'll get plenty of graft into him, ready for a summer campaign over hurdles.
Brilliant. Well, Jamie, congratulations, and please pass on our thanks to the entire team. I know it's a huge amount of work goes into preparing these horses, and a win like today's Grade 2 victory, I'm sure makes all that hard work feel very worthwhile, those cold mornings up on the gallop. So many congratulations and a huge thank you from all the Foxtrot family.
Well, that's very kind, Dan. And listen, we all of the trainers on the lucky enough to train for Foxtrot will stand by the fact that you run the syndicates brilliantly, and it's wonderful to have Foxtrot part of it all, and you deserve all the success you get.
Well, that's very kind of you. But Jamie, thanks again for giving up your time, and I really do appreciate it, and well done.
Great stuff. Thanks, Dan. Take care.
So our next guest this evening is going to be Dan Skelton. But just before we hear from him, let's have a look back at the start of the week, back to Lingfield Park. So Whispering Gypsy was making her debut for Foxtrot Racing, obviously leased from Dan himself, who owns the horse. And I thought we'd just have a little reminder, hopefully the sound will be a bit better this time, of how she got on.
Sunday Shoes has dropped right to the back end of the field now, and she's clearly struggling badly. Up front, the leader is Whispering Gypsy. Whispering Gypsy and now O'Kotsk in second place also comes under pressure. The only one still travelling comfortably after these is Millie Round on the outside. Carol Serena's pushed along, and so too Talk of a Storm, and Annie Moore in behind those, followed then by Trichomi. Sunday Shoes is losing ground rapidly. Heading downhill then for the final time, just over 3 furlongs left to run, and Whispering Gypsy still looks to be going great guns. Everything else floundering around in behind. O'Kotsk in second place, ridden. So too Carol Serena. Millie Round on the wide outside is trying to plug on. And these 4 now are on from Talk of a Storm and Annie Moore. Racing round into the home straight. Whispering Gypsy. How much has she got left to fend off her rivals? Well, the answer at the moment is enough. O'Kotsk can't really quicken. Carol Serena plugs on at the 1 pace, so too does Millie Round. And now inside the final half furlong, Whispering Gypsy. She's made all of the running, and she can coast home from here. She's 5 lengths clear. This opening race of the day, well won. For Bridget Andrews and Dan Skelton, Whispering Gypsy is home. Tight, very tight for second between Carol Serena and O'Kotsk.
Well, I'm absolutely delighted to say that Dan Skelton joins us this evening, and fresh from a great win. So, Dan, thanks very much indeed for joining us.
No problem, not at all. Thanks, everyone. Can everyone hear me all right?
I think we can hear you just fine. Yes, thanks. So let's start off, Dan, just by talking about our win at Lingfield, and you must have been delighted. First run for the yard, first run for Foxtrot. Very, very, a perfect start.
Yeah, exactly. She is a very straightforward filly, and being a 6-year-old, she's got that edge of experience and strength. She's also very, very well bred. She's a full sister to a good horse I have called Quid Pro Quo, and she's a half sister to Whispering Gypsy, Gypsy Island, who unfortunately hasn't been able to run this year for JP, but I do know that she is very highly thought of. So it was just a great start for her. Like I say, she has that experience and that strength, which counts for so much in those bumpers. You can see she was never in any doubt. If you'd have had a power cut halfway around, I don't think you ever thought you were going to get beat. So it was quite pleasant viewing, really.
Well, if they all won like that, we wouldn't worry too much with her. No, it's fantastic. And what about sort of going forward with her? Obviously, she's now had 3 bumper runs because she ran before we took her on. Have you any thoughts about where we go from here?
Yeah, I'll wait until March, and then we'll run her over hurdles. Because if you win a race after the 1st of March, you're a novice until the 1st of November. So it just extends that novice period for a little while, which is, I think, quite important for her. I could run her in a listed bumper, but the thing is, the only place you can go is Sandown, which is going to be horrendous ground, or Aintree, and it's a long time to wait for Aintree when you're taking on all the fancy ones, basically. And I think by that point, by the time Aintree comes around, if I've done my job right, we could have another 2 hurdle races under a belt.
Yeah. Well, she certainly looks very exciting. And in time, I mean, she might even jump a fence, might she? I know we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but she looks the type that might even go chasing. Yeah,
she's 16 and a bit hands. She's not small. She's very, very athletic. She's very amenable at her jumps, and she'll do us proud. I have no doubt that this horse, and like I said to you originally, that this horse will win a stack of races. My intention is to do the best I can, win as many races as I can for her, for me as the breeder down the line, and for you as the owners. I don't want to leave any stone unturned. I want to win everything we can, pick up some black type as well, and hopefully when obviously the racing starts, we can all have some days out as well.
Well, let's hope so. And let's move on. We also had another runner with you this week as well, with Maracuja running at Wetherby. And I think we were very pleased with how he ran. Did he sort of run as you expected?
I think he ran really well. The ground was very, very testing up there. Since they've redone Wetherby, it's almost like 2 tracks. Down the back straight is about as soft as you can get a track. And up the straight's not actually that bad. Still soft, but not that bad. But if you notice through the race down the back straight, he just couldn't really, he was always against it because of the ground. Every horse in the race was. None of them were comfortable. But when he turned in the straight, he got rolling again, and you could see he was getting closer and getting closer and getting closer. But that ground down the back straight just paid a toll. We had to pay a toll for that, really. But it's a really, really competitive run back after a little wind up, and you can see it's fairly obvious he's going to be winning fairly soon. Now the handicapper has forgotten Ascot eventually.
Well, it took him a while to forget, but thankfully I think we've all moved on from that. But it's great to see him in good form, and he's obviously got an entry at the Cheltenham Festival as well, and that might be a possibility.
Yeah, exactly. He ran. But last year he turned in, real close up in the Grand Annual, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't enter him again. I think we could enter him at the entry stage, have a look how the race looks, take a view as if we're going to get in or not. If the percentage chances are we're going to get in, I think we go down that road. I think if it's looking unlikely, then we can run him the week before at Doncaster. There's a good race up there for him, a 20 grand handicap's perfect. And then in the spring, everything will open up to him. Aintree, Ayr, Cheltenham again, Sandown last day of the season. And realistically, there's no reason why this horse can't run on into May. You've got Aintrees and Perths and all these places that water so well. He's an older horse now. He's robust and he takes his racing. So I don't see any reason why, if he's telling us he's in the health to continue, why we wouldn't.
And he obviously had a breathing operation before that run, but Harry said there were no issues, so hopefully we're all good on that front as well.
Yeah, exactly. And the operation he had is just a soft palate cautery, and you can do soft palates all the time. You can redo them all the time. Rock on Ruby is a very good example. Every time Rock on Ruby used to come into training, he used to get it done at the start of the year. Every year he was in training, he got it done at the start. And for some reason, their palate is quite elastic. And as the season goes on, it just loses that bit of elasticity, which is where you get your making of the noise. So you can do so much for these horses now. You might as well do it, and you can see the benefit you've got from it. So yeah, it's quite good.
Brilliant. And Dan, just moving on from Maracuja then, the third horse that we've got in training with you is Checking for Squirrels, who's the mare. How's she getting on? How's she progressing?
I would say she's probably the most improved horse over the winter we've got. She went in in early autumn a little bit light, like she'd just had her first few runs in the job, and I always knew there was loads of improvement in her, and that's why I recommended her to you. And I have to say the improvement that we've seen physically is beyond what you'd expect. So I don't have any doubts about her whatsoever. I think she'll win a couple of 3 hurdles, and I think she'll go on and win over fences as well. I think she's going to be a lot of fun this mare. I don't know how high she can go, but where she is at the moment, she's got so much scope for improvement.
Well, she certainly looks very exciting on paper, and I think it's worth saying, Dan, I think you've always been extremely good towards Foxtrot. I remember when we had Jane Lamb got an injury, you gave us a free lease on a horse called Premier King, who then went and won 3 in a row in the summer. We had terrific fun with her. You've obviously given us a free lease on your horse, Whispering Gypsy, and sort of gave us the nod in terms of checking for squills as well. And we've had 1 or 2 slight setbacks like Grand Vaults, but I think overall your generosity and your desire to keep us as owners happy has to be absolutely applauded. You've really gone out of your way to make sure that even when things haven't quite worked out, you found a solution. And we really do appreciate that, because I think the way you've treated us has been excellent and very much appreciated.
Good guys to work with. And it shows, I'm happy to lease you a quality horse like Whispering Gypsy. And what happened today, that when you get the chance to lease a good mare like that, that doesn't happen by accident. You're good to work with, and you give the horses the time, whatever they need, they get. And if you've got that patience and you've got that outlook, you'll do well in this job.
I should tell everyone that Dan did tell me how good Anything for Love was, and pretty much told me that she was sure to win today. So he knows his horses and not just his own horses. But Dan, can I just ask you, we've got a few questions coming from some syndicate members. So if you've got time, can I throw a few maybe non-Foxtrot questions towards you? And first of all, just a general question. Obviously this season, I mean, you must be absolutely delighted. You won over the yards won over £1 million in prize money, second in the Trainers' Championship. You've got some very, very exciting horses. We saw All Mankind run this week. You must be absolutely thrilled with the way the season's going.
Yeah, it's magic, really. And you have to, if I had time to stop and pinch myself, I would. But it's just testament to the hard work that everybody puts in. And I can steer the ship and sort of point everybody in the right direction. But that's all I can do. The hard work is done on the ground by the staff, and by Harry, Bridget, and the other jockeys riding them, and all the travel staff that put in all the miles, things that you guys know and appreciate as owners. But sort of this year's quality, if you like, hasn't happened by accident. We sort of made a conscious decision back in the start of COVID. I said, it now feels like the right time to go to a quality angle, and to really push on with trying to raise the overall rating, if you like, of the team. And it's easier said than done. You have to then go out and actually do that. So doing it has been a lot of fun. It's been quite challenging at times. It's been some hard decisions to make, horses to keep, horses, which horses to buy or not to buy, which ones have got to go now. And, ultimately you are going to, by doing what we're doing, there is going to be 1 or 2 slip through the net, because, the rate at which some horses develop is going to get you some misleading form almost. But I think it's important to recognise where the industry is, where the owners want to be, and try and just produce the best service you can for the people that you want to work with. I think that's one thing I've learned very quickly. I've not been doing it as long as Paul or Nicky or Alan King or most of them, but something I've learned very, very quickly is you win together, but you actually lose a lot more together. So you've got to have people on your firm and on your team that can understand the losing, they can understand the injuries, they can understand the downs, because realistically speaking, they're around more often than the ups. But the ups, as you guys know, is so much fun and it's great, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of the planning and the sort of the ducking and the diving of it a little bit. Trying to get a horse like Maracuja back to form after the handicapper's given him a good hiding, and that type of thing. It's part of our job, and you've got to outthink them basically.
Well, I can see you very much enjoy that side of it. And we've had a question from Paul that would like to know, you train obviously 2 mares for Foxtrot. And do you train mares differently to the way you train geldings?
Yes. You have to be very reactive to the mares, very responsive to what they're doing. We don't feed them as high a protein feed. That's probably the first and most important thing. Any mare that's showing any her with a marble, and what it does is the marble sits on in the horse's womb, and she thinks she's pregnant, so she relaxes. And Roxana is the best example of that. When she's got her marble in, she is as quiet and as placid as you want. The second it's not in there, you can barely get in the box with her. So she takes a lot of managing. But when you get a mare fit, you don't need to do so much with them. Like Whispering Gypsy is a great example. She's fit now. You just tick away. You keep her fresh. You keep her healthy. You keep her fed. Do plenty of jumping with her. Wait till that second week of March comes around. Enter up in the right race, and she'll win for you. What you mustn't do with those fillies is you mustn't make too many mistakes. They'll forgive you once, they'll maybe forgive you twice, but if you upset them a third time, they're gone. Jamie said there very sensibly, I felt, talking about Only for Love. She will only go to Cheltenham, or wherever she goes, it'll have to be the right ground and the right trip. If you just entered her at Cheltenham regardless because she's won a grade 2 and she should go for the mare's novices hurdle, you run her on the wrong trip and the wrong ground, you give her a bad experience, that's one mark she's got against you. And if you do that too many times to a mare, you'll switch them off completely. They'll stop for you.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. We've got a question here from John that would just like to know, obviously Cheltenham coming up. When do entries for the Cheltenham handicaps when do they go in?
They actually go in next week. So they go in next Wednesday, but the qualification date is next Sunday. So if you're running a horse in, say, the Fred Winter, the juvenile handicap, you can run next Sunday as your final and third run. And they can take into consideration any form up to that Sunday.
Okay. And
thereafter, you get a penalty. So if you won after that date, you would get a penalty. Okay,
interesting. And another question, you mentioned there about reducing the number of horses. I mean, what is your target for the yard now? Is it to become champion trainer? What would you really like to try and achieve over the next sort of 2 or 3 years?
I think the ultimate aim is to be champion trainer, because I think if by being champion trainer, ultimately you've won the Premiership, you've been the best over a whole season. But by doing that, you have probably done very well for most of your owners. I mean, there may be 1 or 2 that doesn't get lucky. Somehow they got an injury or whatever. But I feel if you end up being a champion trainer, you've done well for most of your owners. And that is vitally important. So I suppose that, that sort of does it. Being a champion trainer, that does all of it. That fulfills all the criteria of doing well. But there's a lot of individual races and sort of individual, bits and pieces that I'd like to do. I mean, we trained over 200 winners season before last. I won't be setting out to do that ever again, because that was bloody hard. But
And was that, when you say it was hard, Dan, was that hard on you as the trainer, hard on your staff, or hard financially because you've got to buy in a lot of horses and take financial risk to find owners for them?
all of those things. I'd say that year it cost us, I'd say, approximately 200 grand out of our own pocket to do that. We were buying horses here and there and trying them, and they were working out, they weren't working out, and it was hard. But I'm not the best person to talk to about finances, because I feel that what we do is almost like a train on two tracks, and they run side by side, but they never cross, in my opinion. But I know I'm wrong. Is finances versus sport? What's more important? Are the finances more important, or is the sport more important? At what price do winners come at? And my answer to that is that winners are priceless. If you can get a winner within the rules, you've got to go and do it. So I was going and finding horses and doing bits and pieces that was costing us money to do, but the objective was to win the races, and that was what we were doing. But like my wife Grace, she takes care of all the finances, and she doesn't see it the same way I do, which is good, because if we both saw it this way, I'd say we'd be broke. But we, that was a burden. But that's how I look at what I do. The finance runs here and the sport runs here, and I'm more in charge of the sport side. And I almost think as long as the money bit's okay, we're okay. Keep going. But in terms of the physical output to actually do it, it was phenomenal. And every day, just even me, like I was waking up in the morning, doing the entries, doing the declarations, going out, getting them fit, going to the races, coming home, do it, and just absolute repeat, rinse and repeat. And Phil and Hannah, traveling staff, Tom Messenger, you guys know, my assistant, just relentless, in and out the car, going everywhere. I mean, we're winning, so it's all worth it. But you get to the end of it and you sort of like look back on it, and it's quite daunting looking back on it, thinking, what if we have to do that again? I liken it to when I did a bungee jump. When I did a bungee jump, I absolutely loved it. I thought, that is incredible. I'd never had a rush like it. It's better than riding in a race. I just thought it was incredible. And I'd have done it again then, straight away. A week later, when I reflected on it, I thought, I'll never, ever, ever do that again.
So a bit of common sense. Yeah. Dan, you mentioned there about entries and declarations. Do you do all? Obviously, you've got quite a large stable. Do you do all that yourself, and you take care of everyone's entry?
This is all it here. This is what I work off. So every horse has a rating, and the red ones are the fillies, and then the dates after them I've written in pen. Those are the dates that the horses are going to run. So I am always updating that. I'd probably print that off 3 times a week. I'd make a complete mess of it, print it off, 3 times a week, keep redoing it. Obviously, horses have run, and horses might move from one yard to another. You get a new one in, so it's a constant management tool, if you like, to keep updating your yard and where your horses are. And then the entries, I 100% do them myself, because I just want that's to my mind, that's the most important part of winning the races. If you can get the horse in the horse in the right race, then they have a much better chance of winning. If you have got a novice hurdler that can make the run in, and it's approximately 125 horse, and you go to Ludlow, you can win. But if you go to Newbury or Wetherby, you can't, regardless of sort of what's going on. And there'll be other days when you will enter a horse in a meeting because you knew that race would cut up for whatever reason, and you can find your horse in a better race because you've waited. Whispering Gypsy is a great example of this. We waited, we entered, we waited, we entered, we waited, we entered. I entered again. The second I saw that entry, I texted you straight away and said, this is the one, she'll win. And because we took our time and I knew that race would cut up because there'd been 3 jumpers bumpers the week before. It's a mares only. I thought, this is perfect. And you get your chance. Whereas if you'd have played your card the week before, you wouldn't have been able to run in that race. And you may have got beat the week before because it was all geldings, or, you're at Newcastle, which isn't a great track for front runners. Everything worked out at Lingfield. Front runners, a load of horses run the week before, job's done.
What's very clear is your knowledge of horses, other people's horses, and the race courses and tactics and strategy are a huge part of what you do. And now I really understand why you want to be doing all the entries and declarations, because you want to bring that knowledge to benefit your horses. And it's absolutely fascinating. Dan, we've got time for perhaps 2 more questions I've got here, if you've got time for 2 quick questions. And then we've got Graeme McPherson joining us a little bit later to talk about his horses with us. So, Dan, I've got two quick questions for you. One is, you obviously train for a lot of different owners. This question's come from Richard Morden. Train for a lot of different owners. And therefore, you've got a lot of horses that cost a huge range, from Whispering Gypsy that might be on a free lease to a horse that's cost several £100,000. Do you feel different when you're training different horses, or feel under pressure more if you're training a horse that cost a few £1,000s? Or do you consider sort of all owners just to be equal?
Everyone is equal. All the horses get treated the same. I've yet to find a horse that told me how much they cost. So it doesn't matter a jot to them. And ultimately, your best horse or your most important horses, or the horses that are perhaps the most fragile or whatever, they almost rise through the system. I always think that the yard is divided in the yard. You can divide the horses up into 3 groups. So group 1 are horses that are about to run. So they are horses that are running in the next 2 weeks or so. Okay, so those are at the forefront of your mind, because they're the ones that you're actively searching for races for, unless you already know where they're going, and you're just priming them to be right. So that's group 1. They require more than the 33% of attention that you would have thought. Okay, so they're perhaps getting 2 times what their number is. Then you've got group 2, which are horses that are 6 to sort of 3 weeks away, and they're going through the system. They are getting trained systematically, so we know what they're doing every day, and they're getting a base level of fitness up, and we are going to run them. They're going to step up into group 1 in 3 weeks' time. And then there's a third group, and they're the ones that have just run. So literally those horses that have just run, you then almost put them to the back of your mind. You've got to let them get over their race. The best thing you can do is try and forget them short term, because you don't want to be asking them to improve on the gallops 2 weeks after their race, because they won't. It's just not going to happen. So don't even think about it. So you can see how if you do it like that, group 1 is getting a lot of attention, group 2 is getting quite a lot of attention, and group 3 is basically getting a lot of care. They're not getting training, especially. They're getting care. They're recovering. They're in the recovery stage. So by doing it like that, it's quite easy to do. And having that system in place allows us to treat every owner and every horse the same. And like I say, your best horses, your greatest performers, they find their way. They find their way up the system. But some horses, some of the great performers, they require so little input. They're almost the easiest horses to train, because there's only so many races they can run in. And because you're not running them that often, they're coping with the work better, they're eating better, all of these things. So actually and by virtue of having so much ability, they find the day-to-day graft easy. So actually the horses that require the most attention are the horses that are sort of 4 or 5 years old, who, you can't overwork, that you are at a very fragile stage in their life where they're not fully developed. You've got to look after them. Those are the ones that you really need to help. Those are the most important bracket, if you like. With the greatest of respect, when you get to Maracuja, he's an older horse. He's robust. He's easy to train because you know what you've got to do to get him fit. You know what he likes to do when he races. If you can tinker with his wind, great. And you know that when you start race planning with him, when we're race planning with him at the start of the year when he's rated 150, well, there's only 3 races a month he can run in. So, just run him in one of them. So it's not hard. A horse like him, he's not a hard horse to train. Something like Squirrels would be a harder horse to train because you mustn't press her too hard. You press her too hard, she's still a developing horse. She's a bit fragile because of her age, not because she's fragile, but just because of her age. You can just let her get fit, let her get there, and then you're in business.
Well, it's a fascinating insight, Dan, as to how you organise your training, and really interesting. Dan, I can't let you go without you answering our most popular question, and you'll never guess what it is. Can you give us, just between you and me, a little inside tip for the Cheltenham Festival?
I think our best chance at the moment, after looking at opposition and everything else, I think our best chance could be Roxana in the Mare's Hurdle. Benny de Dieu doesn't go now. You've got Concertista to beat. If it came up with a bit of soft ground, I think she could be very hard to beat.
Dan, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I know your family time is very, very important to you, and I'm very grateful to you and Grace for joining us this evening. It's very, very good of you. Thanks for all your hard work with our 3 horses with you. Congratulations on a fantastic season so far, and looking forward to what the rest of the season might hold.
Thanks, Dan.
Great. Well, Dan Skelton, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We had 100 people with us this evening for the forum on here, and 40 people watching live on YouTube. So absolutely fantastic. So thanks very much to Dan for joining us. Now, looking ahead to this weekend, we've got a really exciting weekend, which we're going to preview in a second. But just before we do that, let's talk about our next runner, which is going to be tomorrow. And I'm absolutely delighted that our Foski's trainer is now with us. So let's say hello to Graeme McPherson. Graeme, can you hear me?
I can, Dan. How are you?
Great. Well, thanks very much indeed for giving up your time this evening. Really do appreciate you getting involved. And first of all, Graeme, let's just talk about tomorrow then. So our Foski runs, and we're all really looking forward to see how he gets on.
Oh, well, me too, certainly. I mean, I was listening to Dan there. I caught the last 10 minutes when he talks about the importance of placing and race placing and things. And blimey, I think I've placed him in the wrong race tomorrow. But the problem is, at the moment, you're looking at maiden and novice hurdles. There's 40, 50. Next week, there's 60 entries for some of the races. And actually getting a run for some horses is a real struggle. So we have had to pick a race where we're actually going to get a run. It's only a 4-runner race, but there's 3 decent horses against us. I mean, Captain Morgs looked really smart when he won at Ascot earlier in the season. Wasn't disgraced at Kempton next time out under a penalty. Shang Tang running the River Don, finished just behind our exploiter 3 weeks ago. And then the David Pipe horse as well, Jericho Rock, won at Plumpton, I think it was, first time out over hurdles. So it is decent enough opposition. If we were going there on better ground, I think we will. Yeah, we'd hold our own. Because of the ground, I'm not sure that he's going to be competitive with those 3. But look, the important thing is he gets around and he gets the experience under his belt. And then as it starts to dry out, he'll start to show himself a bit better. It's been difficult the last 2 months for obvious reasons for everyone, not just for us, obviously. So it's just nice to see him out, see him running. He's fit, he's well. He's been schooling really well at home. Keelan obviously gets on him this time, which will be a real plus. So hopefully we can have a nice day out tomorrow and use tomorrow as a good stepping stone.
And of course, Graeme, you also train for us Casting Grey. And just to explain to those that aren't in the syndicate, so Casting Grey picked up an injury and you very kindly leased us another horse. Now, originally you leased us a horse called Norman Stanley, and then he picked up a little niggle and a problem. So you then again very generously gave us another horse, and that's why we've now got Alfoski. So I suppose he's the sub of the sub, if you like. But the original horse, Casting Grey, just give us a little update about how she's getting on. This, of course, is the horse that the syndicate actually own.
Yeah. She's coming on nicely. But we ran her in a bumper up at Kelso first time out. She ran really nicely, and then after that, we ended up getting her handicapped on ground that was far too soft for her. Just as her ground was coming good, she picked up the niggle. So we haven't seen the best of her by a long shot. But she's been back in a good few weeks now. We're progressing her steadily, not for any other reason other than I can't see any point in getting her ready until the ground has come for her. The way things are at the moment, realistically, I think that's going to be end of March. So she'll be ready when the ground's ready. But no, she's come back in good order. She was fat as a pig when she came back in, so we obviously worked getting that weight off. But no, she's absolutely fine, and I'm looking forward to a nice spring campaign with her. I mean, she's well handicapped. I'd like to think that she can run well over hurdles. She'd obviously run in a point-to-point over in Ireland. So again, I'd like to think that she'll go over fences and run in those mares' handicap chases in time as well.
Absolutely. Brilliant. And obviously we had Lily Pinchin that was riding for us, Foskin, and Rachel, who's in the syndicate, has just asked, can you just explain it's how does she fit into the yard? She obviously did a video for us as well, which we sent around to the syndicate.
So Lily's background is extraordinary in that she will be the first to admit she absolutely hated school. Basically got to the age of 13 and was not settling at school at all. Ended up homeschooling. The moment she could ride out at Fergal's, she did. She went to work for Fergal as soon as she turned 16 and could leave school. And then she came and joined me about 2 years ago. And she joined me as an amateur. And we had, in fact, 3 years ago it was. First season, she had a good season as an amateur. Her last season as an amateur, we really wanted to try and go for the Lady Amateur Riders title for her. And she was one behind Millie Wonnacott when we all had to racing stock last year and we all went into lockdown. So she missed out on that. We ummed and ahed over the summer as to whether she should stay amateur this year or go conditional. I was very keen she go conditional. I thought it was the right time. So she went conditional with effect from 1st of July when in fact, £7 claimers couldn't ride in July. So she went with effect from 1st of August. But she works full time for me. Even when she's racing, she comes in, she mucks at her 3 in the morning, and then she goes off racing. She's off to Kelso tomorrow, and she's actually coming in to do her horses before she goes to Kelso. But she's had an absolutely brilliant time of it. I mean, she's already down to 5. She's really riding well. She's got a massive future, and I think she's an absolutely great girl. My middle daughter Eliza is 11 and she absolutely worships Lily, and Lily takes Eliza out on a Sunday. Eliza's got a racing pony that she races, and Lily takes her out on a Sunday and trains her on the gallops, and I've got a huge amount of time for Lily. I think she's great.
Of course, she's ridden for us with Martin Keithley as well. So some of the other syndicates have had her as well. And she's always done a very, very good and very professional job, I think. So that's fantastic. Good. Well, Graeme, let's just ask you a couple of sort of more general questions that we've had from some syndicate members. And first of all, just in regard to sort of lockdown, and how has that affected, or has it affected the yard in any way?
So this latest lockdown, touch wood, we have been absolutely grand. We haven't lost any, had any problems at all. The big thing, obviously, we all miss is people actually just coming up to the yard. And I think there have been times, particularly during the long dark mornings and the early evenings, where actually the staff love people coming up to the yard, because obviously when you do come up to the yard, what you see goes on day after day anyway, whether anyone's there watching, and they love it when that happens. So it's been a bit monotonous at times, just doing the day-to-day stuff without anyone coming up and doing that. We did have last lockdown wasn't great. We had a conditional jockey, Tom Humphreys, who got COVID first time around, and it hit him quite hard. He ended up in hospital. So it did hit us on a quite a personal level. 9-10 months ago now. He recovered well. He's absolutely grand, but it took him a while to get over it. I think it did make everyone realise that it can be a very personal thing as well as a thing that affects the wider population. Those issues aside, it hasn't affected us too badly. We've been extremely lucky.
Good. And a common question we've had, Graeme, obviously your day job, you're obviously a QC, very highly regarded in the sports sector.
Yeah. So.
How on earth did you become a trainer? And just can you tell us a little bit about that background and how someone of with the profession that you're in has managed to become a successful racehorse trainer?
Well, I used to ride as an amateur jockey, point-to-pointing, and I was absolutely useless, but I loved it. And then I got to the stage, I had a bad fall and enough was enough riding. So I started training point-to-pointers sort of just for myself and a few people that I knew, and then friends of friends. And from there, and we got to the stage where we had some good seasons. We had some good success in hunter chases. And what had always just really been a bit of a pipe dream in terms of training racehorses, suddenly I began to think, maybe we can do this. And we started very, very small. And over the last 10 years or so, we've built up. I've been extremely lucky with the people that have come to work with me, and I've got some fantastic people right from the top to the very bottom. And that's how I've ended up being able to do it. Because there are times when I can't be at the yard, I've got to be in court somewhere, or I've got to do the other job. And they run things absolutely smoothly for me. But yeah, it started out as something that I always thought, God, I would love to be able to do that. And then suddenly, it was probably about 12 or 13 years ago, I began to think, do you know what, maybe we can do both. And it doesn't always work smoothly. Most of the time it does, but I wouldn't swap it for anything, certainly.
For those people that haven't been at to the yard, the facilities there are absolutely fantastic, and it's something that as I understand it, you've built up really yourself.
Yeah, well, where we are just outside Stow on the Wold, my wife and I moved here about 20 years ago, and it was half a house and nothing else really. Well, I say that it had a huge concrete block with 20 sheepdog pens on the top from the previous owner. So once we knocked that down, we were able to start. We built a few stables, and then we've built the yards over the years. So we've got 4 separate yards now in different stable blocks, giving us 80 stables in total. And we were able to so when we first started, we used to use Richard Phillips gallops and David Bridgewater's gallops when we were point-to-pointing, and they're both hacking distance away. We were lucky. There's a big area of land just opposite the house. I used to walk the dogs over, thinking, God, you could put a lovely gallop on here. It's just long enough. It's just the right shape. And then we were able to put a gallop on there. We were able to put a circular gallop in, big outdoor school, all-weather schooling lane, turf schooling grounds. So yeah, everything has fallen into place over the last 10, 12 years. And we've been able to get where we want to be. Made a few mistakes along the way, and we've had to build a few things, knock them down, rebuild them. Haven't always got it right first time, but we've got everything how we want it. And there's always thinking about, well, what next? And one of the things I'm very keen to do is build a dedicated owner's room up on the yard, so that we can mix that in with the office. Because I know those of you that have been up, I know we normally end up having a good breakfast in the house, but it's a cup of coffee in the canteen first of all, and it's not the most glamorous environments at the moment. So.
Well, funny enough, Graeme, you brought me on to my last question, which again has been very popular with the syndicate. Your breakfasts are legendary. They are absolutely incredible. And Kat would like to know, do you eat that breakfast every morning? If
I did, I would have no chance whatsoever of staying under 12 stone. So it is one of the mornings why I love, one of the reasons why I love those Saturday mornings when we do have a good big group up for gallops, because I enjoy those breakfasts as much as everyone else does. So I wish I had them every day, but no, sadly, it's usually a Saturday morning and only a Saturday morning. So.
Well, let's hope it's not too long before we can sample another of those breakfasts, because they're certainly one of the highlights of the year for me. Graeme, thank you very much indeed for your time and for joining us. It's very much appreciated, and all your hard work with Casting Grey, but also with our leased horse Alfoski, and we shall watch with interest tomorrow.
Well, fingers crossed, and no, look forward to them visiting the winners' enclosure soon. Certainly, both of them. See ya.
Brilliant. Well, Graeme, thank you again for your time, and we'll look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Thanks, Dan. Lovely to see you. Lovely to see everyone. See you all soon, I hope. Bye-bye.
So that's Graeme McPherson, who joins us, who trains Casting Grey and Alfoski, who runs at Fakenham tomorrow. So looking forward to seeing how he gets on a very competitive looking novice hurdle. So I thought we'd just finish off just by having a little look at the weekend ahead, because we've got quite a few runners coming up. So first of all, on Sunday, we've got Here Comes Johnny is going to run in the listed Sydney Banks race at Market Raisin. That's going to be live on ITV4. So a little bit like Anything for Love, stepping up into a higher class company, and going to be fascinating to see how he gets on in a listed race off level weights against some very, very good opposition. So Here Comes Johnny running in the Sydney Banks at Market Raisin live on ITV Racing on Sunday. Also on Sunday, I can confirm Little Rory Mack is going to be declared to run at Uttoxeter. So really looking forward to seeing him go. He's going to be running in a style of 2-mile chase, catch me if you can. So we'll get him out in front and see if we can win at Uttoxeter with Little Rory Mack on Sunday. Then on Saturday, we've got Kay Delan is going to run at Wincanton, and really looking forward to seeing him. He has been off the track for a little while, actually, so usually runs well when fresh. The step up to 2.5 miles might not be ideal on the heavy ground, but we wanted to give it a go. That slower pace might just suit him. Kay Delan can be a little bit grumpy sometimes, and we thought he may enjoy himself a little bit more if they go a little bit slower. So we're trying him over 2.5 miles, a little bit of an experiment. Looking forward to seeing him run at Wincanton on Saturday. And then finally, we've got Hogan's Height, also runs at Wincanton, and he'll be blowing away a few cobwebs. Then he's not run for nearly a year, but of course he's in the Grand National. And very excited for him because he's got an exciting program mapped out for him. I think if this weekend is a bit of a, how should we put it, cobweb, get rid of the cobwebs, then he'll go to the Cheltenham Festival to run in the cross country, and as Jamie Snowden mentioned earlier, then on to Aintree for the Grand National. What an exciting few months those owners have got lined up, and we've not heard from many syndicate members this evening, so let's try and catch up with someone from Hogan's Height just to finish us off with. So let's have a chat to Phil King. Why don't you come in here? And you must be very excited about him getting into the Grand National, rated number 57, which means he's he is certain to get into the race, which must be very exciting.
Oh, it's fantastic time, Dan. Fantastic time. So we have to be very, very patient with Hogan's, because obviously he's been out for almost a year, as you just said. So I think you have to keep piecing yourself with him. You know, I think it was my first horse, Hogan's was, with Foxtrot over 5 years ago. So, and we've seen him, his development has been fantastic. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next couple of months. Hopefully we can keep him fit. That's the main thing, and safe. And I'm looking forward to, after this weekend, really, the cross country first. I think it's one of my favourite races at the festival. You know, I think it's a cracking race. Tiger Roll won it a couple of times, I think, in the past. So he uses it as a walk. I think he might even be there, I think, this year as well. So he thinks he's in the entries. So I think, you know, that will be a cracking race, and that will be a real test to see how he goes over that longer distance, because he's not really run over, 2.5 miles, 3 miles has been the maximum once. So that will be a test for him, I think. So, and then in April, we go on to the Grand National, which is, it's incredible. He should get in. I think you agree, do you? I think he should really get in at that weight. And if Jamie can get him fit, you know, hopefully he'll do a clear round, you know, so, and boy, can he jump. So there's no problem jumping. So he'd be really, really looking forward to that. So it's exciting times. Yeah.
Well, it's certainly exciting times, Phil, and I'm certain he'll get in. So he's been given an official rating of 146 for the Grand National, which means he's number 57 in the list. The top 40 will get in, and he will. If he turns up fit and ready to go, he's sure to qualify. So really, really excited about Hogan's Heights. And Phil Chappell, I know you're in the syndicate as well, and we're telling me that you're very, very excited about having a national runner.
Yeah, Dan, as you know, I'm a very patient person, so it's been great in time because he should have been in the national last year, then obviously had the injury in the autumn, and then did that great bit of work on the trial round across country in December and picked up a really bad splinter. So, but as Jamie said earlier, you know, a fresh horse might be just the most ideal thing, you know, for the spring here and those races.
Well, like all these other horses have been trudging through the winter ground.
Frozen.
You know, they're going to end up in April, hopefully having had a long, hard season, and will be turning up nice and fresh. So who knows? It's what dreams are made of, isn't it? So a runner in the national would certainly be exciting, I think, for everyone involved in Foxtrot.
Can I ask you a quick question, Dan?
Of course, yeah. As long as it's not too personal.
Have you heard anything about owners coming back in?
So the answer to that is I'm sure will be of interest to everyone. The answer is no. I've not heard anything. Everyone, I think, is just waiting for sort of Boris's announcement at the end of the month. But even that, it sounds to me like we're not going to learn an awful lot. But I do have pretty good links in with the, you know, I think it's no secret, pretty good links in with the BHA, and I generally know a lot of what's going on. And I don't think anyone knows. We're all waiting. I know some race courses are making plans to be able to have owners in, but those plans are only there in case they are, so that they're prepared and ready. But no one knows anything. Those race courses that are making plans, including Aintree, are only doing so they're not caught out if they are allowed to have owners in. Everyone is just waiting to see what happens. And I'm afraid, you know, we're just going to have to wait for the government's announcements. And it's a little bit frustrating, but we're all in this together, and hopefully we can enjoy our racing from the comfort of our home at least for the time being, and at least racing is able to take place. Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Phil for Hogan's Height. We're looking forward to seeing him run this weekend at Wincanton. So it's going to be a really exciting weekend, and it's been a fantastic week. So 2 winners. Our first ever graded winner with Anything for Love winning at Sandown today. And hopefully everyone in Foxtrot racing will be celebrating a successful week and hopefully looking forward to more success over the coming weeks. So we'll be back in 2 weeks, lockdown or no lockdown. We will be back in 2 weeks' time with some more guests and hopefully some more winners to celebrate. But in the meantime, thank you very much indeed for joining me. We had 100 people over Zoom. We had 40 people on YouTube, so fantastic to have so many people involved. Anything for Love members, enjoy your champagne, and we'll hopefully see everyone very soon.
Thank you, Dan.
Take care.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Very good.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you.